Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're diving straight into a really revealing conversation with Sundar Pichai, the CEO of Alphabet.
Yeah, we're looking at highlights from his recent chat on the All In podcast.
Exactly. And your mission really is to walk away from this with a clear picture of where Google stands right now.
hmm The hurdles they're facing, where they're headed, especially with AI just exploding, right?
Right. We'll try to cut through the tech speak, focus on what really matters for you. Okay, let's unpack this.
Absolutely. And I think the question that's probably top of mind for everyone is, is Google actually at risk? Could AI truly disrupt their main business?
That's the elephant in the room, isn't it?
It really is.
And Pichai's answer, well, it goes back quite a way. He keeps stressing that Google's been AI first for, what, nearly a decade now?
Since about 2015, he said. So it's not like they just woke up to this.
No, it's been core to their strategy for years.
And that long game, that kind of deep integration, that might be a real differentiator compared to some newer players who are maybe adding AI on top.
Yeah, he sees AI less as a threat to search and more as a massive opportunity to make search much, much better.
And he's got numbers, right? Like over 1.5 billion people in 150 plus countries using AI overviews already.
Which is huge. But it's not just scale, it's how people are using it. He pointed out that search queries themselves are getting way longer.
Yeah, like 2 to 3 times longer. That signals a real shift.
Definitely. People aren't just typing keywords anymore, they're asking complex questions, almost having a dialogue.
Which perfectly sets up this idea they have for an AI mode in search.
Right. We'll probably hear more about that soon, maybe at I/O. It sounds like this dedicated AI experience right inside search.
Allowing for those follow-up questions, making it truly conversational. It's a big change from just a list of blue links.
It completely challenges that whole Google is dead narrative you sometimes hear.
Totally. They're actively trying to reinvent the experience. And he brought up the innovator's dilemma.
Ah, yes, the classic Clayton Christensen idea. How does Pichai view that?
Well, his take is basically, it's only a dilemma if you treat it like one. You have to lean into the change.
He gave examples, right? Like mobile, how they adapted.
Yeah, mobile and how YouTube tackled TikTok with shorts. His point is you can't just stand still. You adapt, you innovate, then you figure out the money side.
Which, historically, Google's been pretty good at doing.
They have a track record, yeah.
Okay, shifting gears a bit, what about all the other AI apps popping up? Gemini itself, ChatGPT, Meta AI. It's getting crowded.
It is. But Pichai's view is kind of interesting. He suggests that maybe the most used Google AI product right now isn't a standalone app.
But search itself,
Yeah,
with those AI overviews built in.
exactly, because the reach is just enormous. That said, he did talk about the Gemini app.
Yeah, mentioned it's getting more traction, especially since Gemini 2.5 Pro rolled out.
Right, seeing better engagement. And they're adding features, fast deep research, audio stuff in Canvas, video generation, Gemini Live, with screen sharing.
So they're playing both Fields integration and the standalone app.
Seems like it. And despite all this competition, he sounded, well, pretty confident, pointing to user growth across the board for Google products.
He also seemed quite respectful of the competitors, mentioning Sam Altman, Elon Musk, Zuck, Satya Nadella.
Yeah, acknowledging the progress everyone's making. It felt like he sees the whole field moving forward, and maybe the ultimate winners aren't even clear yet.
Like the early internet days.
Kinda, yeah. It's still wide open.
Okay, let's talk money, the unit economics. Does serving these complex AI answers cost a fortune compared to just showing links?
That's the logical assumption, right?
Sure.
But Pichai pushed back. He actually said their cost to serve a query has decreased over the last 18 months.
Decreased. Wow.
Infrastructure efficiencies, model optimization. He seemed very confident in their ability to manage the costs.
So if cost isn't the main hurdle, what is?
Latency, speed, getting those AI answers back to you almost instantly, like traditional search. That's the bigger technical challenge they're wrestling with right now.
Got it. And ads, how does AI affect the core advertising revenue?
Apparently right now, the ad revenue they get from an AI overview query is pretty much the same as a non-AI query.
So baseline is holding steady.
Yeah. And he even hinted that AI could potentially make ads more relevant and effective down the line.
Interesting. Now, all this change is happening under the glare of Wall Street. How does he talk about handling that pressure, this moment of acceleration, he called it?
His message seemed to be focus on execution, speed, and innovation. Basically, build great stuff, get it out there, and the business results should follow.
And he made sure to mention Google isn't just search anymore, right? Highlighting YouTube and cloud.
Absolutely. Pointing out they exited last year with a combined, $110 billion run rate for those two, framing Google as a massive enterprise software player, a huge media company.
Even the biggest podcasting platform, apparently.
Right, so AI isn't just about search for them. It cuts across everything they do.
Let's dive into that infrastructure piece more. It's always been seen as a huge Google advantage.
And Pichai confirmed that. He talked about their long-term bets on data centers, networking, custom silicon.
The $70 billion in CapEx this year alone? That's a staggering number.
It really is. Chips, networking, data centers. He talked about being on the Pareto frontier, meaning top performance at the best possible cost.
And a lot of that efficiency comes down to their own chips, the TPUs.
Exactly. Tensor processing units. They're on the 7th generation now, purpose-built for AI workloads.
He mentioned the latest one, Ironwood, something about 40 exaflops per unit.
Yeah, which is just mind-bending computing power. It lets them train and run these huge models much more efficiently. It's this full-stack approach from the metal up to the models and apps that gives them an edge.
And that infrastructure efficiency makes things like Gemini 2.5 more viable economically.
Right. It helps manage the cost side of the equation.
And how's that big 2025 compute spend split?
He said roughly 50-50. Half for cloud, supporting customers, and the other half driving internal innovation DeepMind, core products like search and YouTube.
A clear dual strategy, then. Grow the current businesses, fuel the future.
Pretty much sums it up.
Now, you can't talk AI hardware without mentioning NVIDIA. They're dominant. What's Google's relationship there?
He was very respectful of NVIDIA, called them an important long-term partner. He even said Google uses NVIDIA GPUs for serving some Gemini traffic, gives customers options.
But for their own internal training, especially the big models.
It's primarily TPUs. They're clearly committed to that path for the performance and innovation benefits it brings them.
So a mix. Use the best tools for the job, whether bought or built. Makes sense. What about the actual LLM performance? Is progress slowing down, hitting a wall?
Pichai doesn't seem to think so. He mentioned this idea of artificial jag intelligence, AGI.
Jag. Like, not smooth progress.
Exactly. Maybe bursts of advancement, then plateaus, then another burst. Not a straight lineup. He sees ongoing improvements in pre-training, post-training, making models faster, building better agents.
But he did admit it's getting harder.
Yeah, the low-hanging fruit might be gone, which could mean the top research teams pull further ahead. But he doesn't see a fundamental compute limit yet. It's more about the logistics, building out the infrastructure, finding enough skilled people, like electricians even.
Right, the practicalities of scaling. And Google's research isn't just LLMs, is it?
No, he mentioned diffusion models, other areas. It's a broad approach.
What about data? Does having Gmail, Calendar, Docs, YouTube, Search, does that give Google a unique advantage? Assuming user permission, of course.
He definitely thinks so. He sees a huge opportunity there to create much better, more personalized experiences by connecting that data carefully with privacy first.
Yeah.
He called it a differentiated innovation opportunity.
Makes sense. Better data could lead to smarter AI. Looking ahead, say 5, 10 years, how does he see us interacting with computers?
The vision is less about us adapting to tech and more about tech seamlessly adapting to us. Voice AI gets better, but he put a lot of emphasis on AR glasses.
Augmented reality. He wears glasses himself, so maybe he's biased.
Huh? Maybe. But he genuinely seems to think AR glasses could be the next big leap, like smartphones were back in 06, 07.
Moving towards ambient computing, where tech just fades into the background.
Exactly. Working for you without constant poking and prodding. He thinks AR is closer than, say, neural interfaces, but still needs a few more tech cycles to hit the sweet spot.
And Google's still investing heavily in hardware to support this AR, robotics, pixel, data centers.
Yeah, it all connects. Oh, and Waymo, the self-driving cars.
Right. Interesting detail about the founders, Larry and Sergey. How involved are they these days?
Pichai said they're deeply engaged, like really passionate, view this AI moment as the most exciting time ever in computer science.
Wow, and Sergey is actually coding with the Gemini team.
Apparently so. Diving in, giving feedback on models. Pichai values their nonlinear thinking and strategy talks.
Okay, global picture. China. Models like DeepSeek are getting really good. How does Pichai view China's AI capabilities?
He acknowledges they're strong, lots of talent, great research. Said DeepSeek was a moment that maybe adjusted perceptions of how close they are to the frontier.
Did they benchmark it internally?
Yeah, against their own flash models. Found it very competitive, especially considering the resources DeepSeek likely had. He fully expects China to be a major player.
Another big constraint people talk about is electricity. Elon Musk has been vocal about this. AI needs tons of power,
Pichai agrees it's a likely constraint, not just for AI, but for GDP growth generally. But he framed it as more of an execution problem.
meaning we have the technologies, we just need to build them out.
Pretty much. Solar plus batteries, nuclear, geothermal. He says we need it all. Plus massive grid upgrades, better transmission, faster permitting.
And finding the people to build it all, right? Electricians.
Yeah, workforce constraints are real. He even admitted Google Cloud faces supply issues sometimes because scaling data centers is complex. But he's optimistic the U.S. will figure it out.
Google does have a history of making these long-term bets that seemed crazy at the time.
Absolutely. TPUs, DeepMind, the sheer scale of their infrastructure build-out. Waymo, these were multi-year, sometimes decade-long investments.
He thinks Waymo could be a $100 billion business.
That's the potential he sees, yeah.
And they're doing the same with quantum computing now.
Seems like it. He compared quantum today to AI back in 2015. Predicts useful practical computation within 5 years.
5 years. That seems ambitious, given the height.
It does, but he sounded committed, sees it eventually being accessed via the cloud, enabling totally new things, maybe like PCs did in the late 70s.
And robotics, they're getting back into that too.
Yeah, but with a new focus. The combination of AI and robotics,
Yep.
vision language action models.
Like robots that can see, understand, and do things based on language.
Exactly. He even floated the idea of Google creating an android for robotics. Thinks we might see a magical moment there in just 2-3 years.
Wow. Okay, let's talk about Google itself, the culture. It's been discussed so much over the years. How's it changing?
He talked about sticking to the original core ideas, investing in people, fostering innovation, letting ideas mix. Still believes in empowering employees.
But maybe with more focus now, more accountability.
Yeah, balancing empowerment with clear direction. He used Google DeepMind as an example.
Yeah.
Also mentioned navigating tricky issues like free speech internally and really trying to center everyone back on the company's mission and impact.
Does it feel different there now?
He described it as intense, exciting, maybe like the early days again. High energy, people passionate. They're even bringing back smaller focused labs, apparently. Culture isn't static, it needs tweaking.
And talent. It must be a war for AI talent out there.
Fierce competition, yeah. But he feels Google is still attracting top PhDs, top engineers. He mentioned this virtuous cycle. People leave, start companies, sometimes come back with new skills.
And AI itself might change the talent pool, making it more global.
That's his prediction. Access to AI tools could unlock extraordinary talent anywhere, not just in the usual hubs.
Let's circle back to Alphabet, the parent company structure. Is it still about incubating and spinning off new companies?
He clarified it's not just a typical holding company. It's driven more by foundational tech and R&D that applies across different fields.
So the structure follows the tech.
Kind of. There's this core AI layer now connecting many Alphabet bets. Individual companies might still evolve, maybe IPO, but the engine is that shared foundational tech. And X, the moonshot factory, is still key for pushing boundaries.
Okay, last question territory. Looking back over his CEO tenure, biggest regret, proudest achievement.
He seemed most proud of pushing the tech frontier and turning that research into real businesses and value. On regrets, he mentioned small regrets, like debates over acquisitions that didn't happen. He brought up Netflix as an example of intense internal discussion back in the day.
Interesting, but mostly looking forward.
Yeah, learning and moving on.
So let's try and tie this all together. Our deep dive suggests, well, a Google that's really leaning hard into AI. It's not a side project, it's central.
Absolutely. Leveraging that huge infrastructure advantage to manage the costs and complexity, facing a lot of competition, but still growing other big businesses like cloud and YouTube.
And making these really significant long-term bets, quantum, robotics, Waymo.
Right. And for you, the listener, if you're looking for those aha moments, maybe it's just grasping the sheer scale of Google's investment. That $70 billion capex is wild.
Or that 5-year prediction for practical quantum computing, that's a bold call.
Definitely gives you a sense of their ambition and where things might be heading.
So here's a final thought, something for you to mull over. If you take Pichai's vision seriously, the convergence of smarter AI, maybe through AR glasses, plus more capable robots, how does that actually change your day-to-day life?
Yeah, not just how you find info, but how you live, work, interact.
Exactly. How might that all reshape things in the next decade? It's a big question stemming directly from what the head of one of the world's most influential tech companies is thinking about.
Definitely something to ponder.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.